You're all very welcome, and thank you for joining us here today. My name is James Mulcairns. I'm the coordinator for the ISSD Africa Community of Practice, and I'm very glad that you've joined us for today's webinar, in which we'll be hearing about seed security in Bauchi State in Nigeria. Now, today's webinar is really about a seed system security assessment that was conducted by our good partners and friends from Oxfam, ICRISAT and SeedSystem. And I'm very happy that we have this time to hear about the process, the work that was done, what was learned, and what that means for actions going forward. If you haven't got the report, please go ahead and download it. It's available now on seedsystem.org, as well as issdafrica.org. And I'm sure you'll find it also on LinkedIn and a number of other spaces. Now, a little bit of housekeeping for our time together. So we have a team of panelists, and only they will have their microphones and their cameras enabled. I will be very happy for all of you to introduce yourself in the chat, say a little bit about where you're coming from, what's your experience perhaps with seed system security assessments, and of course, yeah, where you're calling in from. Please feel very welcome, and we really encourage you to ask questions to the speakers in the chat. It might be that we don't get to answer all of these questions in the session today, but where possible, we will share the answers to those unanswered questions along with the slides and the recording on ISSD Africa. And all of you who are here today will receive an email in your inbox with all of that information. And a reminder that today the webinar is available in English only. We don't have a live interpretation. Now, I'm very happy to be hosting this session today with a strong team of experts. In a moment, I'll hand over to Connie Formson from Oxfam Nobib. Connie will be setting the scene a little bit, giving us the background to the topic, to seed system security assessments. Then I'll hand over to Jerome Jonah from ICRISAT. Jerome will be giving us a bit about the country context in Nigeria and also touching on the acute findings, the acute seed security findings from the assessment. Then we'll hand over to Mohammed Jada from Oxfam in Nigeria. Jada will be taking us through the more chronic, the findings in relation to chronic seed security issues. And I'm then very happy to welcome two speakers who will be sharing their remarks about their observations on the process, the findings, and also what this work means for their own efforts. And I'm very happy to welcome two friends. It's Dr. Osho Laganjunyu Bankole from the National Agricultural Seeds Council, as well as Dr. Ibidun Adetoye from the National Center for Genetic Resources and Biotechnology. Now, with that, I'd already like to hand over then to Connie. We have a lot to get through, so a short introduction is in order. Connie, might I ask you then to turn on your camera and your microphone?
Thank you, James. Can you all hear me and see me?
We can hear you and see you very clearly. So over to you, and a reminder that when you're ready, just say next slide and I'll push along.
Will do. Thanks, James. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are today. As James has just said, my name is Connie Formson, and myself, Jerome, and Jada will be taking you through the findings of the seed system security assessment in Bauchi State, Nigeria. Next, James. James has gone through the outline of our presentation, and it's as such. Next, James. So what is and why do a seed system security assessment? A seed system security assessment is essentially a rapid assessment of the functioning of seed systems in terms of seed availability, access, and quality. But why do this? It's to diagnose constraints and opportunities, especially during crises or chronic stresses. It also supports development of sustainable and resilient seed systems. Next, James. For us in Nigeria, the big push to undertake the seed system security assessment was in the context of the pilot phase of the crop diversity for food security project that took place between the September 2022 and ended in September 2025. Taking a farmer field school approach, the pilot set out to support seed systems resilience building in the north of both Nigeria and Mali, where communities were adversely affected by insecurity and climate change. Next, James. Let's just take a moment to touch on the various channels through which smallholder farmers source seed. As this diagram indicates, about 90% of seeds that smallholder farmers comes from the informal sector. In contrast, the formal system is about 10% of the seed that farmers use. Next, James. Um, a quick touching base on the key elements of seeds security, and there are four here. And when we talk about availability, what we are asking ourselves is there sufficient quantity of seed of adapted crops within reasonable proximity and on time for planting? In terms of access, the question that we are asking is, do farmers have adequate income or resources to purchase or even barter for appropriate seed? Quality has two dimensions. Seed health is about the issue of, is seed of good physical, physiological, and sanitary quality? And variety suitability for us is really focusing on, are varieties adapted to meet the needs and preferences of both men and women farmers? And are these varieties market acceptable? As a resilience context would be where all four elements are achieved in both good and bad cropping seasons. Next, please, James. So what this table is trying to highlight is the fact that, in various responses to seed insecurity that emerge along the four elements I just touched on, these responses that are taken up by organizations should really be tailored to whether the stressors are acute in nature, that is, occur within one or two seasons, or chronic in nature. Next, James. Moving on to the context of our assessment and the process that we took. In terms of our methodology, this assessment collected data over the period 24th to 30th July 2025 in Shira and Ningi local government area. It covers the 2024 and 2025 wet seasons. Next, please, James. A bit on the respondent demographics. What you see here is that, interesting enough, only 7% of our sample were female. This was despite concerted effort on our side through our household survey to engage female respondents. We also found that about 66% of farmers cultivate on 2 hectares of land. Next, please, James. What are the most important crops to these households? In both Ningi and Shira local government areas, in both seasons, you will see here the 3 top and most important crops were sorghum, rice, and millet. Next, please. Our data collection methods, we use different tools to enable us to triangulate the data coming out through the study. For our household survey, we had a sample size of about 160, 80 per site through random selection. In total, we had 5 focus group discussions, 3 of which were mixed and 2 women only in the various communities as indicated there. We interviewed across the different markets, 12 seed grain traders, 10 farmers in the same markets were interviewed, and key informant interviews with various seed sector actors, as indicated here, were carried out. Next, please. So our process actually started with a 2-day stakeholder workshop to bring us all onto the same page. And this was a workshop with diverse seed sector actors. And the picture here are the various actors who were present for the 2 days. And by extension of this setting, our data collection team was also quite diverse, as indicative of the table on the right-hand side, which shows the various actors that were part of the data collection process. At this juncture, I'd like to hand over to Jerome, who will take us through the next segment of our presentation. And thank you very much.
Connie, thank you very much. Very useful. Now, while I recognize a lot of people in the audience, there are also some new faces who maybe will really appreciate you spending the time to set the scene and explain the background to an SSSA. Jerome, you're very welcome. I see you. You can hear. Maybe you can say one word so that just so we know we can hear you okay.
Yeah, can you hear me all?
We hear you very well. So,
Good.
Jerome, you're going to take us through the country context and then jump straight into the findings. So, over to you.
Thank you once again. Thank you, Connie. Thank you, James, for laying the foundation. So to set the stage, Nigeria's seed system operate through main three channels, which is the formal seed system and informal, and what we call intermediary channels, while NACS oversees the country entire seed system. This is important context for everything that follows in our study. Next, please. Yeah. So Bauchi State is one of the heavily agrarian states in Nigeria, with over 60% of the labor force depending on agriculture. It is largely subsistence based. Farmers grow millet, maize, sorghum, rice, groundnut, among other crops, often alongside livestock farming. But farmers are faced with serious challenges in those areas, such as farmer-header conflicts, which lead to crop destruction and then displacement. Banditry and kidnapping have also reduced farmers' mobility and their access to market. This security drives down investment and in input and disrupt entire value chain. So this is the environment our farmers actually operate on. Can we go to next slide? Yeah, so this slide about the policy context of Nigeria. Nigeria has made a significant stride. The National Agricultural Seed Council Act of 2019 and the National Seed Policy of 2021, provide a structure framework for the seeds industry in Nigeria at large. What's particularly relevant to our work is the community-based seed production scheme or model. By 2016, there were farmers already doing seed production, about 712 CBSP, doing seed production and distributing seed. This is an emerging opportunity for our project area, and sometimes, it promotes seed distribution. I would like to come back to this maybe later. There are some crops promoted through the CBSP, as you can see from the slides, some of the crops, which of course our study area, some of the farmers grow these crops in those areas. Can we go to the next slide? Next slide, please, James. Okay, yeah. So our acute assessment focused on three key questions. How farmers sourcing their seeds? Are they planting more, less, or as usual? And critically, are farmers actually stressed about seeds? These are the diagnostic questions, that tell us whether a seed system is functioning or under pressure in the study area. So these are basically the three questions we ask the farmers. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So to answer these questions, first question is clear. In 2024, 98% of the seed came from informal seed sector, usually from the unsafe seed, local market and social network, which is their friends and family, neighbors and relatives. Very little came from the formal sector, where farmers did go to market. It was mainly for crops like cowpea, common bean, and maize. This tells us the informal seed system is a backbone of seed supply in these communities under study. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So when we ask the farmers whether they plant more, less, or same as usual, the results were overwhelmingly positive. Across all the crops, farmers either maintain or increase their planting amount, except for SSSA, where we recorded slightly less than normal amount of seeds that was planted, about -2. We saw an overall upward trend, indicating that in 2024, there was no seed stress in those communities. Farmers had enough seeds and had confidence to plant those seed they source from those channels. Next slide, please. And the yield assessment confirmed that optimistic in the previous slide. 77% of farmers rated their overall yield as good, and 21% call it average. Farmers were especially positive about their key cereals, that is sorghum, rice, millet, and maize, all of which perform well. So, we are looking at a season where both planting and outcome were strong in those 3 areas. Next slide, please. Yes, our seed quality. We also asked the farmers to rate the seed quality of the seed they used. Remember, this is their own perspective. From their own experience, 87% rated their seed quality as good across all crops and all sourcing channels. Only 12% said average, and only around 1% of the rice farmers particularly rated the seed as poor. So farmers were generally happy with what they had in that season. Next slide, please. Yeah, so moving to 2025, the picture is very consistent. The informal seed system remained the primary source after a good 2024 harvest. 77% of seed came from farmers' own stock. Excuse me. That's a strong indicator. When farmers really rely on their own seed, it means the previous season went well. That gives them courage to do more in the following season. The pattern across crops were similar to 2024, with the local market still important for legume crops, such as groundnut, common bean, and soybean. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. And the upward trend continued. About 73% of farmers plan to maintain or increase their planting in 2025. Remember the time of the survey, as earlier introduced by Connie, with an overall increase of about 77% across all crops. This is a positive second season. It's also one of them we see a sustained confidence among farmers in these communities. Next slide, please. Yeah. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. The why behind numbers. We asked farmers who planted less than normal to explain their reasons. In both seasons, the top 2 answers were the same: no money for seeds and insufficient land. Notice what is not in the list. Seed availability is not on the list of what farmers indicate the reason why they plant less. Farmers are not saying they can't find seeds. They are saying they can't afford or don't have enough land. These are not seed system failure. They are economic and structural constraints in those communities. Next slide, please. Yeah. Well, okay, yeah, here digging deeper in 2025 and 2024, about 66% of farmers who planted less did so for non-seed-related reasons. The top 3 across both seasons were no money and lack of land and insufficient labor. So here, really, we try to bring out other reasons in detail to look at what really happened, why farmers planted less. This tells us that economic constraint and structure are major drivers of why farmers choose to plant less. Next slide, please. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. On the flip side, on the other flip side of the survey, farmers planted more, also did so for non-seed reason. They choose to plant more, not because of the seed availability, rather is about land, more resources. That's for those who can afford. They have more money, they have more land, and that was their reason for planting more. The key takeaway here is symmetrical, where farmers plant more or less. The reason were overwhelmingly about resources, that is the land, labor, and money, not about the seed availability actually. Next slide, please. Yeah. To summarize the acute findings, no acute stress was found in Ningi and Shira for either of the seasons, 2024 and 2025. The seed system is not under strain. 98% of seed came informally. Farmers were satisfied with quality, yield were good, and planting is trending upward. The constrained farmers face more of economical constraint and other structural issues, not seed related. This is a very important baseline as we move to the chronic findings. Now I will hand over to my colleague Jada to take us through the chronic findings. Thank you.
Jerome, thank you very much. A very concise presentation there of what is clearly a lot of valuable data that you've collected. So a reminder to everybody in the audience, please download, you see the links there in the chat, download the document and take a good deep look. Also, what I pick up on for Jerome and also then for you, Jada, there's a little bit of a time delay between when you say next slide and when you might actually see it. So rest assured it will come. In any case, Jerome, thank you very much. Jada, you're very welcome, and you're going to take us through the next section on chronic seed system concerns and the findings from the SSSA. So please, over to you.
Thank you very much, James, and thank you, Jerome, for the presentation on the acute finding. We have seen from the previous presentation that farmers are not under acute stress. And now we'll look at the chronic seed system findings to see what the findings are. Next slide, James. Thank you. So to do that, a combination of informal key informant interview, focus group discussion, and also part of the household survey forms the analysis for these findings. So we look at seed sourcing trend, and number one is the access to new varieties, whether farmers in those areas have accessed new varieties in the last 5 years. And the finding says only 48% of the households in the surveyed area have obtained new varieties over the last 5 years. And even at that, mostly the seed channel remained social networks was the main source. And 83% of the farmers who have obtained new varieties have demonstrated ability to adopt those new varieties. Next slide. Then we'll also look at seed aid going into both local government, and only 28% of farmers have indicated receiving seed aid in the last 5 years, with 92% of the seed aid coming directly from NGOs in form of direct distribution. Next slides. Then we have also looked at crops for which seed aid was provided. And the top 3 of those crops were sorghum, maize, and rice. Next slides. And through the focus group discussion, community mapping seed sources was also carried out in 3 communities of Balma, Zigao, and also Kafilemu. And this is finding from one of the communities, Balma to be specific, which indicates in the last 5 years, the seed sources remained the same. is unchanged, which is mainly from own safe seeds. Next slide. And also we have looked at use of farming inputs. We look at fertilizer, where in 2024, 72% of the farmers have indicated use of fertilizer, and then 67% have indicated that they will use fertilizer in the upcoming season. And then 2/3 or more of the farmers surveyed have used input for both seasons. Most farmers applied input to only 4 main crops that include rice, sorghum, millet, and also maize. Next slide. Then the reason why some farmers did not use mineral fertilizer in both seasons, there are the first one is the fertilizer is too expensive. And then in 2025, more than half found fertilizer to be too expensive. And other reason includes unavailability of the fertilizer. And then while other farmers find it not necessary because it's not profitable for them to use fertilizer in their farms. Next slide. Then we'll also look at post-harvest management and also storage losses, where 22% of the farmers have reported experiencing storage losses in 2024, with more than 50% of farmers in both seasons use or plan to use storage chemicals in order to mitigate storage losses. Next slide. Then we'll also look at local market management practices of potential seeds, and the results indicate that traders displayed good seed management practices with an emerging area of concern for germination testing, where it is discovered that only 7% of the traders actually do germination testing. Next slide. And so from the grain seed market functioning, it has been observed that access is the main constraint, not availability. Seed is available, but access remain main constraint. Also, system remains functional under normal condition, but are sensitive to seasonal shortages, price spikes, quality concern. Therefore, strengthening local seed system and crop diversification are critical for reducing risks and improved resilience. Next slide. So from the previous presentation, we have seen that farmers are not under acute stress, but here, looking at the findings, farmers are experiencing chronic stress due to structural vulnerabilities that are summarized below. The first one is seed system channel, which remains static over the last 5 years with uneven availability and also fewer varieties. Then next one is adoption of improved varieties, which due to weak diffusion of seeds through the formal channels, farmers rely predominantly on informal channels. There is also weak quality assurance. So despite the traders demonstrating good practice in seed and grain markets, there are weak quality assurance. Well, we can see that even from the previous finding that only 7% of them do actually conduct germination testing. Then also availability is another major barrier. With much incomes, farmers prioritize non-seed input use over seed due to cost and also adoption constraint. Then last but not the least is systemic constraint, which affect resilience, where 22% storage losses was recorded in 2024 with high dependence on crops such as rice, sorghum, millet, and maize, and structural limit access to credit extension service. With this, we can conclude that even though there are no acute stress, we can see chronic stress do exist in the targeted location where these studies was carried on. Thank you very much, and over to you, James.
Shira, thank you very much for highlighting these findings. Unless I'm mistaken, you're going to take the floor, or is Connie going to jump back in?
Let me just jump in. It's fine.
Thanks a lot, Connie.
I think here what this quickly highlights in the interest of time is the fact that there's gender division in labor and roles and access in Shira and Ningi local government area. When we look at it, the gender disparity is quite wide. The sample size that we saw with only 7% of women being in the household survey speaks for itself. These gaps, reflect in terms of access to finance, resources, and overall the impact of our programming on the ground. James, next, please. So, with this report, we've tabled 6 recommendations for action, and this provides an overview of the 6 recommendations, which I'll take you through in a few minutes, and they range from the short term to long term, and also some that are continuous in nature. James, next, please. Some of our recommendations in the short to medium term are that, we need to focus on strengthening farmer managed seed systems. And some key activities here are to really promote variety selection and ongoing testing and evaluation of varieties by farmers in their fields, and to expand community seed production through, for example, from field schools or other community-based seed interventions. Looking at the wide gender disparities in the sector, we would like to recommend a stronger focus on gender and social inclusion. Here, some of the strategic avenues through which we can do this is to have, for example, FFS with nutrition and income generation goals that create safe spaces for women to engage in the sector. It'll be equally important to see how we build, women's engagement through existing interventions like, Village and Saving Laws Association. In terms of post-harvest storage and post-harvest management, we will continue to train farmers to promote affordable and locally adapted storage innovations in different aspects. Next, please, James. In the medium to long term, the recommendations that we're tabling is that we need to address seed security and vulnerability. Some of the actions that we are putting forward is, this focus on introducing resilient and locally adapted varieties through different approaches. PVS we spoke about already, but it will be also very important for us to see how we build interventions around purchasing power rather than just seed availability to target the access constraints that we are finding in our assessment. We also recommend an improvement in seed access and affordability. I mean, it was very clear when Jerome was speaking and also when Jada was. Here we've tabled the idea of community seed banks, and here it's the idea of having a community seed bank be a center of excellence that serves multiple functions beyond the conservation to extend to sales points at community level, having that seed in communities in a more cost-effective manner. Next, please. Continuously, I think what is very critical is to really see how we strengthen linkages with various seed sector actors. We've flagged here the strengthening market linkages, and here we look to being able to formalize some of the farmer field school groups who are mature enough to become community-based seed producer groups that will be strategically linked to research and various actors in the seed sector, and their professionalization as well through capacity building and business skills development would be critical here. James, I think this concludes the main body of our presentation, and over to you.
It sure does. Thank you very much, Connie. Really appreciate it. Also, I see the chat is starting to come to life, thankfully. So thanks to everybody for posting your reflections and your questions there. I'm going to hand over to our 2 guest speakers now in a moment, but we will have time at the end to address some of these questions here out in plenary. Now, with that, then I will actually stop sharing my screen, and then I will ask Dr. Ibidun to turn on your camera and your microphone.
Please, my camera is disabled by you, so
It's
please.
not turning on. Okay, bear with me. So you should see a little box pop up now.
Yeah, okay, start my video.
So there you are. So Dr. Ibadan, thank you very much for joining us on behalf of NACRAB. And now you've heard the speakers. You've also had time to take a look at the report. So I believe you're going to share some remarks, some insights and observations, as well as how this work relates to what NACRAB might be doing. And then when you're ready, you can indicate when you'd like me to show your slide.
Okay, I don't have any slides. I'll just share my reflections.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
so thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. Good day, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. So, and thank you to the team for the opportunity to share my reflection on this report. So I'll be sharing my observation from the variety of this system perspective. So one thing that I think stands out clearly is that this report is showing us both opportunities and constraints. On one hand, there is evidence that farmers are willing to adopt improved varieties when those varieties fit their needs. And on the other hand, um, the pathways for getting those varieties to farmers are still very weak, fragmented and overly dependent on informal or project-based systems. So let me start with the positive findings that I noticed in the report. First, the report gives strong evidence that farmers are not resistant to improved varieties. In fact, once a variety is well adapted to their environment and meets their expectations, adoption can be very strong. The fact that 83% of introduced varieties are still being cultivated shows that that the farmers are well encouraged and they love the varieties, and this is very encouraging. So that tells us that farmers see value in the varieties materials, especially when they offer better yields, early maturity, resilience, and grain quality. And looking at the varieties listed in the report, if you look at the report, you will see the table where the varieties are listed. So we can see that there are already several released varieties that are well suited to Bauchi state, especially the Sudan and Sahel Savannah areas of the state. So for sorghum, I think we have started transfer 45, 46, 49, 52, and 53. We have some for pear millet, some for soybeans, some for sesame, and for rice. For rice, we have 64, 67, and 44. So, James, please kindly help me to share. Please share.
Yeah, it's coming now.
Okay. Yeah, so what is encouraging is that we have some new varieties released recently. So we have for pear millet, we have SCIMC7 released in 2023, pear millet, SCICMH2 released by ICRISAT and SCRI Maiduguri in 2025. We have some other ones too from ICRISAT and Chad also. So we have sorghum, Samsung 54 and Pack 501. The latest one is 2026, which is released by Advanta Seeds Nigeria Limited. We have rice, and we also have, yes, we have rice. And the latest one is 2026, which is SG Rice 1 and SG Rice 2. So from the table that I display here, you can see the outstanding characteristics, the releasing organization, and the year that is released. And you can see clearly that they are adaptable to Sudan and Sahel Savannah. So what is very encouraging is that, like I said, we have new varieties, and this is a major opportunity because the ecological zones of Sudan and Sahel Savannah of Bauchi State face challenges like short rainfall, duration, drought stress, and so on and so forth. And newer varieties are being bred to match those challenges. So the third one is that the report also show that the informal seed system is well functioning, which I think is a plus. So farmers are relying on their own safe seeds, local markets, and social networks, and that is not necessarily a weakness in itself. In many smallholder systems, this informal network is what keeps seed flowing because it is affordable, trusted, and locally adapted. So, but however, there are some challenges which I see in the report. Number one, the most important gap that I see in this report is that formal seed system has very limited reach. When because 7% of seed comes from the farmer's own stock, and only 2% comes from the formal sector, as shown in the report. That tells us that the formal release system is not yet translating into broad farmer access. In other words, varieties may be released, but they are not moving effectively through the seed chain, as we can see. So another problem is that variety dissemination is happening, but in an unsystematic way. Much of the movement of seeds is through NGOs, social networks, direct distribution, and local markets. Although the channels are useful, but they are not sustainable on their own. So there are often interventions, and the flow may slow as the project stops. So based on this, I have a few recommendations, maybe just like what Connie recommended. So the first one is that we need to strengthen the formal seed delivery chain, because I can see James, maybe I'm using more than my time. So the second one is that we should expand participatory variety selection from variety release angle. I think we need to strengthen participatory variety selection so that farmers can be involved right from the beginning of variety improvement, so that they can make their preferences and select alongside working with the breeders, so that whatever you release for them, it will be suitable to their ecology and it will be useful for them. And the third one is that I think we need a more pluralistic seed system in Nigeria, a system that will recognize community seed banks, farmer managed seed system network, and so on and so forth. And the fourth one is that we should reduce overdependence on NGOs by ensuring that every release variety has a commercialization pathway that includes seed multiplication, market linkages, and demand creation. So in conclusion, the report shows that farmers adopt varieties when they match local needs, especially for drought tolerance and other traits. So for breeders and for horse and variety release, we can use these evidences to prioritize farmer preferred traits, strengthen participatory variety selection, and breed varieties based on specific ecological needs. Overall, the report emphasizes the fact that Nigeria needs a pluralistic system, not one that ignores farmer managed channels. So we need a system that integrates from informal and formal systems, recognizes community seed systems, and supports quality declared seeds. Thank you very much.
Dr. Ibadan, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, I have this unenviable job to use my face to scare people and to tell them to hurry up. But thank you very much for your remarks and your very clear recommendations. Thanks a lot, Dr. Ibadan. You can turn off your camera when you're ready. So we'll go straight on to our final speaker. That's over to yourself now, Dr. Osho. So feel free, welcome to turn on your camera. I see you coming now.
Okay.
There you are.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. So over to you, Dr.
Great.
Osho, for your remarks. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you very much. I work for the National Agricultural Seed Council, which has the mandate to promote and stimulate development of seeds industry in Nigeria. And in doing this, we essentially regulate and control the registration of released varieties, protect the farmers from sales of poor quality seeds, facilitate the production and marketing of high quality seeds in Nigeria. And also we provide the legal backing for official seed testing, certification, sales, import, export in Nigeria. So with this mandate, we know this presentation is very apt. And I want to thank Connie, Jada, and Jerome for such a wonderful presentation. Looking at the presentation, I want to see this assessment, how I wish it could go around the whole country, because it has brought out so many salient issues. It has also made us to know that some of the steps we are taking in the National Agricultural Seed Council need to be upped. When starting from the study area, I want to say Bauchi State using this as study area is very, very critical and apt. If you look at Bauchi State, it's located in northeast Nigeria, and we know this northeast Nigeria is a place that is fraught with insurgency. But Bauchi State is relatively peaceful, and when we get the seed system right in Bauchi State, it can actually cushion the effects of areas where there are insurgency by producing seed for those areas. And I also want to say that the Bauchi State, as it were, some of the results you got is because Bauchi State has one of the least number of seed companies, as it were. We have 641 in Nigeria, and Bauchi State has less than 10 that are actually functioning. So you can see why some of these results came to be. So let me go to some of the critical areas I want to highlight. One of the things that readily came to mind, because I work in the certification aspects of the Seed Council, we saw that the result shows that the farmers, in their own perception, view the seeds they plant as good. Well, despite the fact that they do farmer-to-farmer exchange, and they say the seeds are good, it brings out something very critical to us. If they can judge the seeds they use as good, that means there's something that we should look onto and see as an opportunity to develop the seed sector in the area. Then the access to new varieties is also elucidated well in the report, but we saw that more of the varieties in use are the older varieties, except maybe for maize. So if they are the older varieties, that means there is a gap which we need to breed. Like my colleague Dr. Ibidu said, we need to be intentional in getting the newer varieties which are more yielding, which are more smart and climate resistant to that area. And that is where we need to develop our policies in making this get to them. Then the lack of pharmacy system distributing channels. Like I said, Bauchi State has few seed companies. So this is very, very agreeable, because when a seed company is very far from the users, we know the distributing channel becomes very weak. And these are part of the things we, as a seed council, is looking at. Then, Bauchi State is highly gendered. The report shows that women farmers are very few. They don't have the decision-making ability. But we all know the role women farmers play in seed and farming in this area. So one of the things that readily comes to mind is, how do we strengthen this very important sector of the seed system? How do we strengthen them, the youth, the women, to be able to be involved in more seed production to aid accessibility, availability, and affordability? So looking at the recommendations, the first thing which is very critical, which I will hammer, is this community-based seed production system. As to regulating the seed industry, we found out that most of the seed companies are focused on seed that are really bringing money to them. And if you look at seeds, according to the slide presented, if you look at the seeds that are under the community seed product, nutritious food crops, which we term in quote orphan crops. These food crops like that they are nutritious. We need to develop the community seed system. How do we develop it? We, as a council, has recognized the community seed system, and we have made the registration of this system less cumbersome. We have made the registration less cumbersome in the sense that you don't need to go to the Corporate Affairs Commission. You just need to be registered in your local government, Ministry of Cooperatives, to be able to form a community system. And one other thing that we hold very dear, that which is coming from this report, but we are looking forward to, is the community seed banking. If the varieties are able to be well stored in the community seed bank, we'll know that the next generation of seeds to be used will be true to type and will have quality. And this is one of the aspects that the NAS is looking forward to. We've been able to get some, we'll be able to write some proposal, and the World Bank is going to sponsor a project starting from 2027 where we up the game of community seed banking. Then we also saw in the report that 85% still hold on to the older varieties. Dr. Ebidu has been able to share with us some newer varieties like the SD rice, which is very apt for that area, going as far as 9.1 tons per hectare. And it can also ratoon to about 6.1 tons per hectare. These are varieties which we will be intentional in bringing to them. Then going forward, from the report, we are seeing opportunities. Seed access. How do we create? Oh, James, thank you. Seed access. How do we create seed also community seed production, which can address accessibility to seed? We are strengthening this, and one of the things we are doing is how do we regulate the system? We are promoting the licensed seed inspectors system, whereby we have third-party inspectors resident in that area to help them certify the seed under the inspection of the NACS staff. This makes sure that they get certified seed in that area that is certified within their locality at lesser cost. And the farmer management system is being encouraged for development. So I think maybe I will stop here. But before I stop, I just want to say that for the NASC, this report is very apt, and we are looking at some of the gaps which will dovetail into some opportunities and ambitions to help the seed system in this area. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Dr. Rosho, thank you so much for your remarks, and not only for putting some of the specificities around Bauchi into context for us, but also telling us about some of these different opportunities on the horizon that complement what the report actually recommends. Now, time is short, as always, but I will ask all of the panelists to please come back here into the plenary, turn on your cameras and your microphones. Good to see you all again. Now, as I said, time is short. Now, Connie, I know that you've had the longest time to be browsing through these very welcome comments and questions. And I'd like to go straight to you just to see what jumped out that you'd like to talk about.
I mean, thank you, James. There are a number of very interesting questions. And I mean, one of the things, let me just use these remarks to kind of try and cover several questions. Okay. So why is it that farmers, are investing in fertilizers so much? We find that, with their meager resources, they're really prioritizing investment in non-seed inputs from the perspective of, because of the fact that they have poor soil fertility. So their lack of trust in seed coming from the formal sector, right, pushes them more to use their own safe seed because they feel more comfortable with it and they trust it more. And with meager resources, there really is that focus on not investing in seed. Automatically becomes too expensive. A lot of what we found in terms of the perceptions of seed quality is not through testing, because there is no testing that is taking place in the local markets, and that's one weakness that we pointed out. Our work and we propose to do on the community-based seed production groups is essentially to help make that jump to have a more professionalized, market-oriented groups closer to communities to provide seed in the respective areas. And I think this we will be doing with NASC, and it will include the capacity building of the groups, taking a very much a value chains perspective in how we work. My last comment will be on community seed banks. In a lot of our works in other countries that we're doing, we see community seed banks as very central to the works on variety selection. For a community-based seed producer group, for example, the work on participatory variety selection, in essence, becomes their research and development, ways of coming in acquaintance with new varieties that will be of interest to their fellow farmers. And Dr. Ibiden's remarks there are very spot on, because it'll be very critical for farmers to test these new varieties, gain trust in them, and then by virtue of that, where these varieties are have market potential, be carried on through the seed multiplication. I'd like to stop there, James.
Thank you very much, Connie. We have just a couple of minutes. Perhaps I can just throw the floor open to Jada or Jerome or Ibidon or Asho. Is there anything that you saw in the chat that you'd also like to address here in plenary?
Okay. I want to talk on, there was a question on EGS availability. And want to say we found out that there were issues with EGS availability in Nigeria, and NASC has gone forward with the support of AGRA to license more companies to produce the basic seed, the foundation seed, so as to make availability of EGS better than before. These are part of the things we are doing. And I saw a concern on RTB. Yes, in those areas, the root and tuber crops are not well grown. But for those that are grown, the model we have used in the southwestern part of Nigeria under another project is what we are also latching off. We have some companies now that have registered to start producing the EGS for RTBs to make it more accessible to the farmers in those communities. Thank you.
Dr. Osho, thank you very much. I don't see anybody looking to jump in, so I guess it's good that we move to towards a wrap up. Now, Connie, I'm going to share my my screen one last time. You had made this very nice slide where you might be able to inspire some others in the audience who might be considering getting engaged in a seed system security assessment. We've dug through.
Sorry, I was on mute. I forgot I had this slide. Okay. I mean, these are just some practical considerations for anyone thinking to do a seed system security assessment. I think the most important part is to be really clear on the why you're doing it. For us, it was clear. We wanted to really be grounded in the fact that a future project was on point and doing what it needs to do in terms of seed systems resilience building that we're looking to have. The guidance on carrying out a seed system security assessment are very thorough, and they tell you how to do it throughout. You know, and I put the challenging moments as data collection, data entry, and analysis because, you know, we underestimated the advice to, have very distinct roles, divisions in the process. And I, for one, for example, ended up wearing multiple hats. And what that meant is that then, it builds up, So I think it's the data collection is very critical and hinges on the quality of our analysis. I think as many researchers will know, that's self-explanatory. But what I'd like to say is this, even we were learning by doing, literally. And, once you remain systematic and you trust the process, it works out well. So our biggest takeaways, don't underestimate the process. And if you can, follow the advice and have the role division. And if you can, even better yet, hire a consultant who will help you with this. If you have to choose between consultants, I would say hire a good data manager and have good enumerators. I'd like to leave it there, James.
Connie, thank you very much. In fact, we are moving towards the end. Just a quick note to say that for those of you who are hungry to know more about seed system security assessments, the best way to do so is to take the short online course. You can find it here at these links. You will receive these slides as well as the other information in your inbox. Now, we move towards closure. We're just after the hour. I think what I pick out from the chat is greatly a lot of appreciation for you as a team who undertook this effort. I think it's also important to say that you were self-motivated to go through this assessment process yourselves as a means to help you design your future activities. It's not per se that somebody directly asked or instructed. It was your own initiative. And that's also very unique also, I think, and should be recognized. To those of you who've contributed here in the chat, many thanks. Sort of as normal, we don't have time to answer all of these questions. What that means for our panelists, especially, is that their job with this webinar is not done. I will take record of all of the questions and forward them so that by the time the recording and the slides are ready to share, at least some of those questions will be answered. With that, I will offer a final word of thanks. Thanks to everybody for joining today, staying here with the hour. Thanks to all of our speakers. Dr. Ibidun, Dr. Osho, thanks to you in particular for joining, sharing your remarks, and helping to paint a picture of what we can all look forward to see happening in Nigeria. That's it. Thanks again, and bye-bye for now.